Creating a wonderful composition in After Effects means nothing if you can't export it to a file that you can use somewhere else. I'm going to take you through a couple different ways to render your composition into a finished product. For this example, I'm using the project I created in my keyframe animation video. You can check that out here if you're interested in seeing how that came together. This composition is pretty basic. It just shows off how to use some keyframes and does a little bit of animation with this rectangle. First thing I want to do is render this as an MPEG, which does not support transparency, but I don't have any transparency in this composition right now. So we're going to go up to the File menu, and then we're going to select Export and Add to Render Queue. And you can see that popped up another window down here in this panel for the render queue, and we've got a row here with some different options in it. The couple that are important to us are the output module. We're going to go ahead and click on that. It's going to pop up this window, and we can select what format we want to output it in, and we're going to leave that as this default, the H.264. And the other one that's important is the channels. You can see we have two options here, RGB and alpha, and we're just going to accept all the defaults for this one. Then we come over to the output to, and this is where we would select a file name that we want to export this composition to, and we will just accept the default here. Once we have those things done, we can click this render button, and it'll go frame by frame and render this composition. And then it's all done. And then you can go ahead and play that composition and see what it looks like. The next thing is, what if this project had some transparency to it and we wanted to make sure we retained that transparency in the export? So I'm going to go back over to the composition, and I'm going to turn off the background that I have, so you can see that this now has transparency. The other things are still there, but it is a transparent background, and you can see if I still play it, it plays exactly the same as it did before, but now with transparency. So if we want to export that, I'm going to go and do the same thing, File and Export, and I'm going to add it to the render queue. And you see we've got a new row here for this one. And we're going to go back into those options and bring up this window. And this time we have to select a format that actually supports transparency. One of those formats is QuickTime, so we will select that. And then if you go down to the channels, you can see that we have another option here. We've got RGB, alpha, and RGB plus alpha. And that's the one we want to select. That'll give us all the colors plus the transparency information, which is the alpha channel. We'll click OK. And then again, we get to select what the name of the file is that we want it to be. So we can come up and we'll just give that a slightly different name. And then we hit render again, and it's going to go through frame by frame. And once again, it's complete. So now if we play that, you can see it doesn't look a whole lot different. The background is obviously different, but you don't quite see that it is transparency that was exported. But if I use this in another composition that has a different background, you can see how I was able to overlay this composition onto that one with that transparency. I hope that helps. Like and subscribe if you do find these helpful, and let me know in the comments if you have additional questions.